further ado, supply chain applications for small businesses. We're going to do an overview. Then we're going to cover the 3 main packages that can be used to do supply chain management. And then I'm also going to talk about some recommendations for selecting an application. Okay, so these 3 alternatives. The first alternative is what is known as a small business accounting package. This is going to be QuickBooks, Peachtree, and a few other applications. They're going to have fairly limited SCM functionality in the base package, in other words, the package you're getting off the shelf. But what you're able to do is purchase add-on applications and modules that'll let you do things like EDI or e-commerce integration. Their cost is going to be anywhere from about $250 to $400 per year per user, plus you're probably going to have to pay about $500 or more for each of these add-on applications. They're going to let you do things like EDI or e-commerce integration. The second alternative, and this is going to be for companies that are a little bit larger, so you're going to need a minimum of anywhere from 5 to 25 users before you can use this option, but it's called hosted cloud or software as a service. And again, these are ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning applications. They've got fairly rich and growing SCM functionality. They've got some industry-specific versions. And the really nice thing about them is their software as a service. So you pay one price and it covers the software and the hardware and the maintenance. And in fact, you don't even have to have a machine on site. That's all provided to you as a service through the internet. They are, however, somewhat expensive. They're going to cost you about $1,200 per year for each of your users. So if, say, you have 10 users, that's going to cost you about $12,000 a year. But as I said, there's no software and hardware costs. The next alternative, and again, this is for a slightly larger company. They're probably going to want anywhere from around 100 employees to 50 million in revenue. And these are called mid-tier ERP applications. And then again, they've got fairly rich and growing SCM functionality, again, some industry-specific versions. The issue with them, and as opposed to the software as a service, is you're going to need to buy the hardware and also hire somebody to do the IT support. And they're fairly expensive, and they're probably going to want a minimum of 25 users or more. Okay, let's take a little more in-depth look at the small business accounting software options. The first option, QuickBooks, has been around for years and years. In fact, I had a business school classmate that worked on the original version of QuickBooks way back in the 1980s. The next thing, Peachtree Accounting. Recent development here, Peachtree was bought out by a company called Sage. In fact, you can see the word Sage on the box. They've rebranded Peachtree, and it's now called Sage 50. But all of the websites and all of the links that I'm providing you still forward from the Peachtree. So at least for the moment, I'm leaving it as Peachtree in the slides I've got here. The next option is called Account Edge for Windows. PC Magazine did a review in May of 2010, and I just checked, in fact, earlier this week, there isn't a new review out yet, but they rated QuickBooks as the best option with 4.5 out of 5 stars, Peachtree rated 4 out of 5 stars, and Account Edge at 3.5 out of 5 stars. Pricing-wise, one of the things you'll note here is there's a certain amount of flexibility with QuickBooks depending on where you buy it and when you buy it. QuickBooks will typically ship a new release. So if you wait till a month before QuickBooks 2012 arrives, you'll pay a much lower price for QuickBooks 2011 because they're trying to get it out of the store. But there isn't a whole lot of different functionality between 2011 and 2012. So you can save maybe as much as $150 a year if you'll wait to purchase it right before the new release. The websites for each of these applications are listed below, QuickBooks.com, Peachtree.com, AccountEdge.com. Now let's take a little bit closer look at the PC Magazine review. primarily with QuickBooks Premier 2011. The major advantage you're going to see with QuickBooks is they've got a very extensive network of certified application providers, and that's extremely important when we're talking supply chain management, because these certified application providers are providing most of the supply chain management functionality through their add-on applications. And at least according to PC Magazine, they felt that QuickBooks had fairly weak inventory tools. Now, I've got several clients that use QuickBooks to manage inventory, and at least in terms of their opinion and everything I've seen no indication that QuickBooks has weak inventory tools, but because the PC Magazine had it listed off as a negative, I went ahead and included it here in the table. The next thing we're looking at, Peachtree Premium. Peachtree was regarded in the base version at least to have fairly robust inventory functionality. Again, that's as compared to QuickBooks. The other big advantage of Peachtree is they had industry-specific versions. There's a industry-specific version for construction, there's an industry-specific version for retail, and a couple of different industries. And without fail, I found for clients that are in one of those industries, it almost pays to adopt and utilize the industry-specific version. And that's because these application providers have spent quite a bit of time looking at the unique requirements of your industry and adapted the application to match those unique requirements. So in almost every case, it pays to look at the industry-specific versions if they're available. Not a whole lot of information on Account Edge. I haven't actually run into anybody who's used it yet, except for I did a purchasing and inventory management webinar in the fall, and there was somebody that actually had used Account Edge for Windows. They felt it was fairly clean and comparable to QuickBooks and Peachtree, but again, I don't have a lot of information to go on there, so probably your safest options are going to be QuickBooks and Peachtree since they're the more established applications. The next thing I'm going to look at is these hosted cloud ERP applications. And again, we're going to be looking at a minimum of 5 to 25 users before they'll even talk about selling these applications to you. The three of the top choices for these are NetSuite, which was founded by Oracle, and SAP's Business by Design, and obviously since SAP's in the name, they're not even trying to hide the fact that SAP's behind the Business by Design application. So what's happening is Oracle and SAP are both taking their core supply chain and ERP functionality and rolling it into NetSuite and Business by Design. The other dynamic is there's some fairly established players. For instance, it's Plex Online. They've actually been providing software as a service ERP application since 2001. So they were one of the first, if not the very first, that was doing this. So they've been around since 2001. And both the Oracle NetSuite application first offered manufacturing type functionality in June 2010. SAP offered it in July of 2010, fairly new entries, but because of all the domain expertise that Oracle and SAP have built up over the years, they're rapidly catching up to the longtime players like Plex. NetSuite, again, it's a pure SAS company, supports multiple sites, languages, currencies, and they've got a plan in place to target complex manufacturing industries. SAP obviously has tremendous manufacturing domain expertise. Their next plan is to focus on mixed mode manufacturing and engineered to order stuff. Plex Online has been focusing on global capabilities and vertical manufacturing. And again, this is hosted cloud or software as a service, and again, those three terms are roughly synonymous. So whenever you hear one, you can sort of think this application family. The third option, and again, it's for somewhat larger companies and mid-tier. Now, Gartner defines mid-tier as starting at about $50 million, or 100 employees. Now, as a practical matter, I have some clients that do about $10 to $20 million a year in business, and these mid-tier software companies decided to pick them up. So once you start approaching $10 million a year, you can probably start thinking about these mid-tier ERP applications. Before that, software as a service is probably going to be your best option. There's three main players that I want to talk about in this mid-tier ERP applications. The first is Microsoft Dynamics. The thing you got to be careful with Microsoft Dynamics is there's 5 different versions of Microsoft Dynamics, and that's because they've purchased companies through acquisition. GP was once known as Great Plains. NAV was once known as Navision. So they've bought these 5 separate companies, and at least for the moment, they haven't integrated any of the functionality, and they're selling as separate units. They also have a CRM application that's part of the Microsoft Business Solutions group. And again, as I said, they've grown by acquiring, purchasing independent vendors. Another long-time maker in this sector is Epcor. They develop ERP, especially for retail software for mid-market companies in manufacturing, distribution, retail, hospitality, and services. And then there's SAP Business One. Again, this is a subsidiary of SAP. And again, the domain expertise that SAP has in their core applications is rapidly being rolled out into SAP Business One. Now you can find Microsoft Dynamics at this website here, Epcor, at www.epicor.com, and then SAP Business One. The URL is a little more complicated, so you probably want to click on that. And again, you can get all of this through the participant manual as well. Okay, let's talk about some general recommendations for selecting an application. And I always tell folks, pick something you can live with for a minimum of 5 years. In fact, 10 years would be better. And why do I say that? Because applications require cost and employee effort, management attention, personnel time, and monetary expense. Don't be fooled by terms like rapid cycle, simple implementation. It's all going to require some money and some effort, and you're not going to want to do this more than once every 5 years. One of the things to keep in mind, you need to consider what the application is going to look like in 5 to 10 years. So when these folks come in and talk to you, you need to find out what are their plans for the next 5 to 10 years. Is the application functionality that they don't currently have on the roadmap somewhere to be developed? And then the other thing you need to consider is, are these applications providers still going to be in business? Second thing, KISS. Let me go ahead and type that out. Get this slightly different color here. The old adage, keep it simple, stupid. And the reason for that is anytime you build complexity into one of these solutions, it's going to result in more cost and higher risk. Now, there's some things you need to keep in mind. First of all, systems integrators, and these are the software consultants that will go and help you recommend applications or implement them. They've got a tendency to recommend something that's going to result in larger consulting expenditures because they've got their own bottom line in mind. So you need to do that trade-off every time you get a recommendation from a systems integrator. Are they recommending because it's the best for me or because it's going to be larger consulting expenditures? Another next thing you need to keep in mind is these application providers, SAP for instance, Oracle maybe. They're going to recommend alternatives that are going to result in higher training and maintenance revenues. So there's 2 conflicts of interest you need to keep in mind, both with the systems integrators and also the application providers, and be very cognizant of that dynamic and figuring out what they're telling you in terms of recommendations. The next thing is, and I mentioned this previously, industry-specific solutions. With small business, that's Peachtree, the small business accounting applications, Peachtree. They've got industry-specific versions in apparel, automotive, chemicals, electronics. So anytime you're in one of these industries where there's an industry-specific version available, it always pays to evaluate these And I've yet to see a case where a customer looked at an industry-specific version and decided to go with a general version instead. It almost always plays out as the best solution. So if they're available, consider using these industry-specific applications. Okay, I wanted to pause here for questions. Stefan, were there any questions on these supply chain applications for small businesses?
Yeah, we did have one question, and the question was, what is causing application providers to no longer provide or support applications that they built a few years ago?
Okay, there's two dynamics here. The first one happened, and it was mainly driven by Oracle. Oracle started buying out these application solution providers. First, they purchased PeopleSoft. Then they purchased Siebel, and that has sort of kicked off this trend with these other large application providers going out and acquiring competing products. And so one of the dynamics in software applications disappearing or no longer being supported is the fact that they're being bought out. The second impact hit around 2008 and 2009 with the economy, simply because of lower software expenditures. There have been a lot of companies that have literally been driven out of business. So software applications disappearing driven by two phenomena. One is mergers and acquisitions, and the other is the bad literally reduce the income stream for some of these application providers to the point where they just can't stay in business. So again, if you're looking for an application that's going to stay in business for 5 to 10 years, read the fine print of these contracts that you're providing. I know with PeopleSoft, there was a guarantee written into the contract that you would get maintenance and support for a certain period of years after you bought the software, and this contractual relation requirement carried forward into the Oracle acquisition. So the PeopleSoft folks that were purchasing PeopleSoft were protected contractually. So make sure you read the contracts carefully if you go out and buy an application.